episode of the A2P Cast. I'm Mike Revenbury. With me is Josh Hartman and Mike Shipsky. We're talking this time about Apple's next move. The tech company has recently finalized a deal with China Mobile, which is China's largest mobile network. They have 750...
Thus the world's largest network.
Right. They have 750 million users. As Josh just said, they're the largest in the world. And while iPhone has been available in China through select mobile carriers, now they've broken in and done a deal with China Mobile, which is, the sort of holy grail of Chinese mobile carriers. So what will they do next? If that is if that's kind of the last unexplored frontier, do we have some thoughts of where they can expand other than just making different products?
Aside from saying that space is actually the only final frontier,
the ocean.
I think that is for the fishes.
For the fishes.
I think
the eye fish.
This is something that has come in my mind for a lot of companies. I mean, for any company. China is that big, crazy thing that everyone wants to get in on. But eventually China will kind of normalize and join the rest of the market. And what happens at that point? We assume at the same point that China will also surpass the United States as the world's largest economy after several years have passed.
Well, right, and it's growing at an unprecedented
rate. So it helps that it gives Apple, and I think it helps the Apple shareholders, this gives them a clear objective. This is what they must do, and I think that will be beneficial to Apple in more aspects than just iPhones. I think giving them a goal of something to conquer could really help. If you are among some of the type of person who's felt that there has been some stagnation in Apple's innovation, it wouldn't be too hard to say that there isn't much for them left to innovate as the market stands right now. Having come from nothing and conquered the world, what do you do after you conquer the world? And I think giving them, well, now you must conquer China. There could be, not that I really like the phrase trickle-down effect, but there could be shockwaves of that. Giving them such a challenge to have to stay competitive in the Chinese market could drive a lot of competition and innovation that will benefit the rest of us.
And so while that might help the company as a whole, how will that affect, if it affects at all, the American market or the European market for I'm just thinking particularly of the iPhone here now, but just of Apple's products in general. So even if they're off in China selling lots of iPhones, we already have them. And, they've already saturated the market.
Exactly. So like people are still sitting around with their iPhone 4s and perfectly happy with their iPhone 4s. What is the incentive to get a 5S when your 4 is working so beautifully?
Well, it's not working so beautifully with
iOS 7.
With iOS 7.
And that's a shame.
Right?
And that's a shame because the hardware is still stupendous. But yeah, the new product idea is something that they could do, but I still think goes against Apple's philosophy of keep it really, really simple. Keep it down to a select number of products. Don't make a product just because you want people to buy said product. Make a product because they need said product.
Right, because it's really worth having. And I think we've all kind of come to the realization, I think a lot of people have, that Apple makes products that you don't know you need until they tell you. And it's either the best marketing in the world that has convinced so many people that it's the best thing ever, or it is truly this sort of revolutionary, innovative thing that everyone kind of claims that it is. And I guess the question we're basically asking is, where do you go once you've run out of space to innovate more in your products? When you sort of hit that peak, is the only way to go down? Can you keep going? Can you forge a different path? And if you forge a different path, does that take the form of making peripherals like the rumored smartwatch or the television, or curved screens for a new iPhone? Does it take the form of that, or does it go in a different direction?
I hope not. That in terms of television, smartwatches, and curved screens, But this is the thing. Like we really don't know what is the next move. Like we are of course thinking like 5 years, 7 years down the road,
Yeah.
when China is completely drained, that well is completely drained dry.
Mhm.
What then? What do they do?
I think it'll take more than 5 or 7 years for China to be drained dry. But I mean, the point is the same. That what happens when?
Yeah. I mean,
when
think
that
about it.
happens.
The iPhone, the very first iPhone came out in what, 2007? Was it? Or I'm sorry,
was like
2000.
5 or 6.
2005.
Was it 5?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, so well, it's not quite 10
But
years.
still, it's 8 years.
8 years.
And it's the ubiquity of the iPhone.
Oh
It's-
God, no! I think it was 2007. It's not important.
Yeah, but the point is,
Moving on.
it wasn't 10 years.
It wasn't
not
10
It
years.
did not take 10 years for this market to like kind of stagnate in a way. I mean, not in a bad way, but just like everybody has an iPhone.
Right,
What is the need for it?
we are at the point where the annual release of the iPhone has become
No,
almost something that people look on with disdain in some spheres, and I think rightly so. I think there is certainly a benefit to having annual, iterations of a tech product. I think there's something to be said for that, but I also think that it creates a sense of exhaustion.
Yeah, we always talk about like we just talked about recently about like how we hate the fact that there's this culture of I need the new thing, I need the new thing.
Mhm.
When in fact you really don't. But I mean, Apple can't make a business on putting an iPhone out every 5 years. You know what I mean? Like they can't.
Mhm.
They just that's not a stable. They have to have an iterative process. But then that creates the problem of once you get the iPhone 5S, like if I had the 5S, I would hope it lasts me at least 5 years. Because I mean, Jesus, I can't be paying $400 for a phone every single year.
Yeah, I mean it's true that
And I think that also, it's not directly related to Apple's next move, but it's important to note that how is Apple's next move going to figure into the truly unsustainable system we have of subsidizing phones, which companies are now starting to say that they're going to stop doing.
Right. There are some whispers of discontent, or maybe roars. There have been whispers in the past, and now they are growing louder. Is it AT&T? And I don't know.
The name's
I don't know
it wasn't
what
one of the major
position
companies.
he was in, but this cat's going for it.
He is going to topple these books. All right, I have to take these
It's
books
all right.
away.
It's all right. Cats are cats. Everyone in the world understands that.
The podcast has been paused for
The
cats.
podcasts.
Podcasts.
That's exactly right.
Podcast.
But the subsidizing system.
Moving on. Right.
It was really good for consumers when we didn't want to pay $700 for a phone. Not so great for the carriers, especially carriers who are carrying iPhones, since Apple has such incredibly demanding demands. I didn't think that sentence through. Incredibly extreme demands of what they want them to do. They think they require that they buy them in bulk. So Apple actually has to take no risk in any stage of this process. If you want the iPhone, you have to buy like one for every person in the country, and whether or not you sell them is your problem.
Yeah, and I think a lot of issues are going to happen. And again, I'm in no way an expert on any of this, but here I am spouting off my opinion on the internet anyway.
That's the internet.
It's the internet. This is why we're here. But I think it will be really interesting to see what happens when these contracts expire and they come up for renegotiation. Without Steve Jobs at the helm, will Apple be able to strong-arm companies into a similar deal? Or will the companies will there be a collective backlash that says, no, this is unsustainable for us. We can't carry your phone because it's too expensive for us to subsidize that. And if they do, I mean, are they going to just foist that cost onto the consumer then? Is it going to
And
Yeah,
cost of
that
having an
that
iPhone?
would certainly hurt the growth of science.
Will it just skyrocket even more?
Smartphones.
I mean, it's already the most expensive phone in the market, but I mean, Jesus, I mean, how much higher can it go? It's always been my biggest roadblock to buying an
And
iPhone.
this is
because
even
it's how expensive it is.
as you mentioned, with the annual releases, being asked to pay $200. I mean, that's something I think as time goes on, we just have to get used to it. But it's still kind of hard to get used to that idea. $200 every 2 years for your phone. Every 2 years, because if you try to go longer than that, you are in a bad shape. You are in a very bad shape. Your battery doesn't work. The operating systems are no longer compatible. It really is a required upgrade, and it's already, I think, at its peak of price that the majority of people want to do. And the phones certainly don't look like they're going to suddenly become cheaper to make anytime soon.
No.
Apple has never been in the business of taking less of a profit, and the companies are no longer interested in subsidizing all of it in between. We're certainly on the cusp of something very big is going to break and change.
Again, yeah, we're at a point where we kind of have to ask, what is next? Let's talk about some other rumors. We have a 12.9-inch iPad, possibly to replace the 11-inch MacBook Air. Again, talking about convergence here, where you have laptops merging with tablets. You know,
the distinction,
the line becomes ever more blurred.
Yeah, and it brings up the question again: is a tablet actually a replacement for a computer? And even it still isn't just yet. But I don't think that's the hardware's problem per se, because having worked with people now I know people who have replaced their primary computer with an iPad. And I mean, if you're going to do anything intensive, obviously you still cannot do that. But even the bare bones stuff, I was just helping my mother, family story. I was just helping my mother with some applications for things that she was sending letters into places. And that is a pretty normal thing to do. I mean, it is just that step above listening to music and commenting on Facebook. But that is something that everyone in their life has to do. If you're going to ask that people replace all of their devices with this, they need to be able to have a certain amount of control over documents. And writing a resume and cover letter on an iPad, let me tell you what, is not an easy thing.
No.
And we were using Google's software, which I think in terms of mobile software and cloud software is the best operating system to go with for an Office suite.
Sorry, Apple.
And the functionality is still not there. The final stage of the process still needed to be handled by my MacBook Pro, because there's some basic things that it couldn't do. Turn this into a PDF and save it onto the drive here. No.
There is no folder in which to
There's no folder in which to save it. Email this as something else. No, you can't do that. You are still very restricted in the environment. And maybe that's a conscious decision by Google, because it doesn't seem like something that should be technologically difficult to do. And so maybe Apple will give us something better than that as Pages and Keynote keep trying to compete with them. But if they do, I think they do have to keep in mind that controlling files is still a problem. If you're going to replace a PC with a tablet, you need to have a system for looking at your files, and not what iOS does now, which is hiding everything to make it look fluid. And I think this might be something that Android could have. I look at you, Mike Shipsky, because he's the only one who has an Android phone.
So I'm an expert, obviously.
He's an expert on Android. But Android does handle PDFs and files on tablets in a more obvious way. You can actually put files into folders and things, can you not?
I don't have a tablet, but from reading what I've gathered on the internet, yes, you can do such a thing on the Android tablets, but it's still not all that much better. I'm still not sold on the tablet replacing.
It's a hard sell, but it seems to be something that's coming inevitably, whether or not we believe it's a good thing for productivity.
I think the one product we talked about this before when Mike Hope was here, but the one product I think that Apple really could enter the market and improve it and dominate it is television space.
Yeah, and we had an entire podcast devoted to that, which of course you can listen to. But I think just briefly touching on that,
that rumor has not died down.
There is so much room for improvement in that market, and I think that, as we said before, is where Apple really shines. Is they look at a market that
they say
you're fucking that up, and they go in and they fix it and they dominate it, and suddenly everyone's buying an Apple
ITV
television, an iTV, and maybe it's in the future. Smartwatches,
for the most part, I am not on board with smartwatches. I think they're superfluous and necessary. At the same time, I was just talking to the aforementioned Mike Hogue, who's not joining us for this podcast, but I will voice his opinion without his consent because it almost changed my mind in that it is a smartwatch is not a replacement for anything, but it is a supplement that makes your life a little bit easier by making it so that you don't always have to pull out your phone. And that seems in the beginning, it seems like that's a pretty expensive thing to do, so just so you don't have to pull out your phone. At the same time, how often are you doing something and you get a buzz in your pocket and you think, I need to know what that is. I'm washing dishes. Not that you'd wear a smartwatch washing dishes, so find a better analogy in your head. But maybe you are.
Not typically putting your wrist in the water. Maybe it's waterproof.
Maybe you're having a fat day and you wanted to wear your tight jeans to feel good. And pulling your, every time it buzzes,
it's a struggle.
It's a struggle. The struggle is real. And how much easier would that be if you could get buzz, look at your Apple Watch and say, "Oh, that's just a tweet. Don't worry about it." How many individual times does that happen in a day that you pull out your phone only to be disappointed that it wasn't really that important?
So anyway. In this hypothetical, the watch is simply like a notification device.
Yeah, the watch is because really, what else can a watch be? You can't. You can try and send
if you want to surf through. Like if you want to actually get into the meat and potatoes of an app, you want to use your phone. Mm-hmm. Plus, then it's an intentional decision. I want to go looking for something. I'm pulling out my phone to do it. But
really, using the watch as a stopgate to control the rest of the devices on your phone.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to pay $100 for that?
That's the question.
Well, see, this is the thing. I have my doubts that it would be just $100.
This is also...
it's Apple.
Would you be willing to pay $300 for that?
this particular thing.
This is the question.
Can they convince Rolex to subsidize
it? Oh, God.
If Steve Jobs were alive, the answer would always be yes. But...
Well, you're right. That because I had completely brushed it off. But maybe. I am slightly warmer to the idea than I was 5 minutes ago. So congratulations, Mike Hogue via Josh.
Mm-hmm.
What about curved screens?
I think curved screens seem kind of useless.
They do seem like a sort of cheap, gimmicky
with the exception of putting it on a watch, in which case it would be essential to make a nice fitting watch. You'd want the screen to be curved.
That's a good tie-in. I like that. I like that a lot.
But specifically, the rumor is talking about a curved screen for the iPhone 6, that there will be a larger screen for the iPhone 6, and it will be curved. Now, I'm sure it won't be curved to an extreme degree because the other company... See, we should do more research for this. We're not very professional. There is another company that did a phone...
cocktail in hand.
There is another company that just did the... I think it's probably LG. They made a curved smartphone. Mm-hmm. And it looks stupid. Like, it just looks like, why would I want this phone to be curved? And so the only way that a curved phone, I think, could work, it would be a very, very, very subtle curve.
Yeah.
And at that point... What is it?
What is the point of curving the phone itself? I think the only reason you would want a curved screen is if you have a very, very large TV. At that point, a curve becomes good because you can put it a little bit closer to you and you have a sort of field of view of things.
Mm-hmm.
And in like a weird way that kind of works.
Mm-hmm.
But I think any other...
For a phone, it's just such a small little...
Yeah,
you're looking at such a small little screen.
It's so close to your face. Like,
it seems really unnecessary.
I don't buy that it is anything that I could be convinced to need.
No.
But, as we've said, Apple, they're masters at it. So we'll wait and see about that. We have some confirmed products, some that are out, some that are coming out or about to release. Most, I think, exciting of them is the Mac Pro.
The new Mac Pro.
The new Mac Pro, redesigned. Kind of looks like reminds me of like a Dyson vacuum or something.
Dyson vacuum, or
it certainly has a certain suction to it.
Yeah.
What? Don't look at me like that.
I think that's an excellent blurb for the Mac Pro. It has a certain suction to it. But yes.
But it's been several years since we've had a new Mac Pro.
Yes.
And there is certainly a market for Mac Pros. And it's interesting that the Mac Pro is... It's kind of an iconic computer, I think. but it's not. I mean, it's far from a mainstream computer, but that it's nice to see that little bit of acknowledgement of the underbelly of tech people, the people who normally don't get marketing because they don't need the marketing because they already know,
they know what they need.
You can't fool them about the specs. They know what the product is, they know what they need, and they know what they want, so why spend the money on them? But it's nice to see a little bit of acknowledgement to the creative professionals around the world with that. And even when they announced it at the Macworld stage thing with the screen and Phil Schiller, there were no pretensions about who they were talking to. He didn't care about anything. He let his full nerd come out, and he just gave the specs. And if you didn't know anything about computers, you were going to shut down at that point. But it was nice. It was like appreciative that they gave everyone that moment. Said, okay, so we got a new Mac Pro. If you don't like computers, you can just stop listening and go, make a sandwich or something because we're about to get real. And he got real with it. And I think it helps contribute to the way they're selling this thing. They're not bothering to try and convince other people that they need this $3,000 computer. No, they know who it's for. And they're still giving it that little Apple bit of style.
And I think it's interesting because the old Mac Pro, of course, the big thing about it was that it was like a PC. You can open it up. You can put hard drives in it. You can put cards in it. You can easily swap out the memory. You can do all of these different things as you could do on any normal PC. And so it was the customizable thing. It was like the Steve Wozniak idea, of what computers should be. It should be hackable. It should be customizable. And it was actually surprisingly not in line, I think, with a lot of Steve Jobs' ideas.
Yeah.
And so I think the way that they have carried that over is interesting, but I also think it's unproven. And what I mean by that is just that the core of the computer is now just like a little sphere, and so it doesn't have like hard drive built in, doesn't have optical drive built in, it doesn't have like any of these other peripherals like built in, or not even peripherals, just like essential computer components that you think like this is what it needs to run. None of that is built in. It's all external, and so it just has an array of I think like Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt.
It's whatever the most recent Thunderbolt port is.
Right, and so you plug all of your stuff in via those ports, whatever you happen to need at the time, and so it makes the computer more customizable, more portable. But I feel like techie people still really like the idea of taking out the screwdriver and opening up the system and installing just a normal person hard drive into a Mac and still having it work the same.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just my thought. It is not to deride the new design, because I think it could really have legs, and it could really be like, oh my god, this is amazing. Because if I'm going to a job site or whatever I'm doing with it, I just pick it up and I only need the drives that I need. I don't have to carry everything with it. I just need this hard drive because this is the hard drive I'm using for this job. That's it.
Yeah,
that could be really cool.
I think it is the Apple take on the customizable computer. It's taking that philosophy of just trying to make it work for the person that it needs to be. For the mainstream consumer, they hide everything that's remotely technical. They don't want you to have to think about it. They don't want you to have to deal with it. What do you want it to do? This is what you do. And that philosophy obviously doesn't work for people who actually work in technology because they need to work with that. So I think this is probably the best possible fit of bringing that philosophy into a tech world. At the same time, will it be enough? Because, like you say, tech people actually really like getting down and dirty with it. Tech people are weird. They're weird people. Like anyone,
I can sympathize with that.
I didn't say I didn't sympathize with it. I never said I wasn't weird too. It's just that tech people are not normal people. Anyone deeply involved in any discipline is not normal. And trying to bring that mainstream philosophy and work, even if it's the best effort I've yet seen done by any company, it might still fail. Irrelevant because you can't substitute what they actually want for this.
Let's talk about the iPad Air and, by extension, the iPhone 5S, or I guess maybe the other way around. Primarily, my thought is that I hate the bevel, that shiny bevel.
Oh, the 5S bevel.
Seeing it in person and on the Air, the iPad Air, I think it looks terrible. I think it looks cheap and chintzy. I recently saw a 5S in person. I hate it.
Wow.
Really...
All because of the shiny
this is
bevel.
surprising.
Well, mostly, yeah, because it's around the fingerprint scanner, and it's around the entire edge of the phone, and so you can't miss it, and it looks like cheap plastic. I'm pretty sure it's actually metal, but it's so shiny that it looks like plastic imitating metal.
There is an incredible irony to that the technology world has been using plastic to imitate metal for so long that when a company comes along and uses metal, it looks like plastic.
Well, see, but that's the thing. It's like my iPhone has metal, but it's not that shiny. And I wouldn't get this picky about any other product, but it's an Apple product. And so the design is so intentional and so thought out that you know that nothing was just overlooked. This is so highly intentional. And I just think it looks gaudy as all hell. I think the 5C looks cheap as hell. And I think the 5S is gaudy.
The 5C is cheap as hell.
Gaudy as hell. And I don't like either of them. I don't like the way they're designed at all. At least on the the outside. I mean, I get the guts are still, either the 5C is the 5, the 5S is a better 5, and that's fine.
It is still a 64-bit smartphone.
Yeah, I mean it's good technology. I wouldn't deny that. I'm simply talking about in terms of design, and on the iPad Air as well. It's a distraction.
All right. Well, I have not seen the 5S or the Air in person, so I can't say. But I have seen pictures of it. But I didn't know it was going to be that pronounced.
See, I have played around with the 5S, and I don't think I really noticed the shiny bevel so much. I mean, the phone is a shiny phone, but I rather enjoyed using it. I intend on buying one as soon as my phone is no longer living, when I can't get another moment out of it.
I'd really just like to get a 5, but I can't.
But you can't. Well, no, you say you can't. Period. You have to go. You have to go off the beaten path to get a 5 now. But.
Yeah.
Or you could wait for the 6 and get a nice big large curved screen.
Hooray! That's what I've been waiting for.
So many options that you want.
I think the iPad Air as well. I don't think the iPad Air is...
I haven't gotten to play with the... I went into the Apple Store after it launched, and I swear the Walnut Street store did not have it.
You don't think it's light enough?
Well, not to, make a big fuss out of how different it is. No.
Which, I want to point out, I said this the other day, I love it when people start sentences with that phrasing. What? I don't want to... Because after that comma, they're going to do the exact thing that they didn't. And I love it, but continue.
Yeah.
Continue. It's right up there with speaking as a mother.
Speaking as a mother, and then you say
I don't want to sound racist, but it's all the same category. But you don't want to make a big deal, but...
Oh no, I'm pretty sure you've completely derailed me. I don't even know what I was saying. So you prevented me from saying whatever it is I was going to say.
There's presumably something negative about the iPad Air. Wait, you want it to be lighter?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean...
We always want it to be lighter.
Right,
I don't know if I want the iPad Air to be lighter.
No, I'm not necessarily saying it should be lighter. I'm just saying I don't think the difference is great enough between other iPads and the iPad Air to make me go, oh wow, that warrants being called Air.
Yeah.
It's another iPad. It's just an iPad.
I'd be interested in...
it looks like an iPad, it feels like an iPad. Okay, it's an iPad.
Yeah, I'd be interested in comparing the 11-inch MacBook Air and the iPad Air and seeing okay, well, which one really feels like it should not be
Air?
Which
one is Air?
Which one is Air? When I pick them up, which one is Air? That's what's so great about the 11-inch MacBook Air, which is why I'm sad that there are rumors that a 12.9-inch iPad will replace a MacBook Air.
Though I believe the rumor we read about that said that it would be primarily targeted at educational
and that makes sense.
That does make more sense to me. I like the idea of that because I think there have been a lot of reports of great success of using iPads in a teaching environment.
They are they really are. They have a lot of potential. In the days of me being a public school teacher, had the school district of Philadelphia had the funding to give my whole music class iPads, the whole ordeal could have been a much different experience.
Yes, I'm sure broken iPads would never have happened.
Well, yeah, you got to be careful with that. But there is the hands-on element of it that you can't replace it. And GarageBand, the mobile GarageBand app, is a really good app. It does shocking things, and it lets you create a very basic level of music in a very, very fast way. And it kind of again fits into that whole Apple philosophy. It lets you, not the philosophy of Apple, but the marketing of Apple. It lets you feel like such a great, cool person in just a half second with virtually no effort at all. They give you 4 buttons, 4 chords, pick an instrument, and they give you like the most basic abilities to change the options. Oh, you want an orchestra sound. High strings, middle strings, low strings. 4 buttons. And you can just move on. It takes care of the beat, it takes care of the harmony. You just play around and have a good time. Are you making anything actually artistic? No. But do you feel like you are? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you do. And for a 7-year-old with a 13-inch screen,
I think that's important.
That could be a huge
yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of hit the bottom of our list here. I don't know if there's anything else that you guys want to mention or bring up.
No, because like we've said, the new product.
No, because I like it.
No, because I don't want to. What's the phrase? I don't want to say this, but I will say it anyway.
Yep. I don't want to sound like.
But yeah, the new product sounds like something they are going to have to venture into with the already existing markets. China's okay. We've established that okay. Now that they've tapped into this vast resource that's given them a window of time to just rest on their laurels with China. But now for America, for Europe, a new product sounds like it could be a reality in the coming. I mean, 2014. Tim Cook has said that 2014 is going to be a big year for Apple. What that means?
He wrote a letter to his investors and said, "We've got a lot of exciting things. What are these exciting things, Tim?"
I don't know.
Show us, buddy.
Show us. And
smooth talking Southern accent.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I was done, so I wasn't going to continue.
Well, then I guess
I was going to just keep making sexual jokes about Tim Cook's voice, but
he's got a nice voice. I mean, I'm not normally a man for a Southern accent, but he makes it smooth and sophisticated. What can you say?
All right.
So I guess that's the end of our imploded podcast about Apple's next move.
Why does it always devolve into this? What happens?
The cocktails don't help, I tell you that.
Why can't we just end normally?
why can't we have nice things?
All right, so that's it for Mike Reifenberry and Josh Hartman and Michael Shipsky. I guess we're
and the cat napping.
And the napping cat.
The cat is gone.
We'll have to see you next week in the
you almost said next year. It will be next year.
It will be next year. Well,
that's
the thing. It will be next year for us. But by the time anyone else is listening to this,
travel.
It will also be next year. So next time.